So we're not out of the clear with the whole Kawhi Leonard and aspiration situation. Pablo Torre is still on the job. Come to find out, Steve Ballmer is now getting sued, which something that does not surprise me at all.
So the thing that I'm going to show you right now is a new lawsuit filed in Los Angeles against Clippers owner Steve Ballmer. And it was filed by 11 aspiration investors who allege that Ballmer used the company, which is now called Katona, to, quote, secretly funnel millions of dollars to star NBA player Kawhi Leonard, paying him more than allowed by the NBA's salary cap rules. You're seeing screenshots from the complaint in this video right now. They go on to say, quote, Ballmer was complicit in and aided and abetted co-founder Joe Sandberg's fraud for his own self-serving purpose to evade the NBA's salary cap. The lawsuit goes on to say, quote, plaintiffs would not have invested and or kept their investment in aspiration if Ballmer and Sandberg had disclosed the true nature of Ballmer's investment. And I just spoke to aspiration investor Skip Miller, who provided a statement. Skip Miller is the plaintiff's LA-based counsel, as well as somebody who had money with the company. And what he tells Pablo Torre finds out is that, quote, a lot of people have been hurt here. This lawsuit is being brought to recoup their losses. We look forward to our day in court where everything will be aired out and justice will be done. And the lawsuit says, in particular here, quote, the full extent of Ballmer's transfers of funds will be ascertained in discovery. And so I'm going to put a link to my newsletter at the bottom here for more. You can get a PDF of the lawsuit, and this is just beginning.
Okay, this is actually a lot, and I'm going to be honest with you. This is about to get ugly really, really fast. I remember when we first talked about this, and I think I had said either on stream or maybe on one of the videos on this channel, on Low Lights, not on Low Post, that I'm kind of surprised that many people are more discussing, and understandably so, like we're talking about basketball, like we're in the NBA space, but like I am very surprised that not enough people were just talking about the legality of what is being accused of Steve Ballmer himself. I know aspiration, they've already been found guilty. They're already going to jail. But effectively, what we're talking about with Steve Ballmer is either one or two things, or maybe both. It's market manipulation, or potentially we're talking about like money laundering, where you're using an entity to transfer funds from one entity to another illegally. Like that's what you're deciding to do. And the more and more information came out, the threshold of like how much Steve Ballmer did or did not know started to become much harder to decipher. And if anything, you probably lean more on the side of like, oh, Ballmer potentially certainly knew, because there was at a point in time where they were looking at litigation, and regardless if it was Ballmer or someone who was associated to Ballmer, was still putting money into aspiration, which is a very, very, very scary thing to acknowledge. And of course, we can talk about NBA terminology, but from like a legality standpoint, I just don't understand why more people didn't really discuss and talk about how this is much bigger than just the NBA salary cap. Steve Ballmer could be facing like a lot of lawsuits, and here we are with the first one. Now, before I continue, Pablo Torre did give us some highlighted segments of the lawsuit itself, and then also gave us a little bit more here as well. I feel as if like, yeah, if you want more of the whole PDF, I think you had to like start a trial or something like that. Maybe you had to like pay for it, or I don't know. But he still did give us a lot here, so we may not have to purchase or put our email in. But let's just see. The arrangement was that Ballmer would be an investor in Katana, or now that's the new name of Aspiration, and in return Ballmer would use Aspiration to secretly funnel millions of dollars to star NBA player Kawhi Leonard. The funds would be channeled through Aspiration to Leonard so that Ballmer could induce Leonard to re-sign with the Clippers by covertly paying him more than allowed by the NBA salary cap. So that is the allegation. We kind of already know that. It also serves Ballmer interests in getting extra money to Leonard so he could circumvent the salary cap, beat out his competition, and re-sign his team's superstar player. Ballmer was complicit in and aided and abetted Sandberg's fraud for his own self-serving purpose, which is that is a pretty damning statement right there. Ballmer publicly endorsed Aspiration and infused over $50 million into the company. Absent Ballmer's support, Aspiration could not have been sustained. That fraud set forth herein, which is important, because I did think about that. If Ballmer kept putting money into the company, I'm pretty sure many people used that endorsement of him throwing that much money into the company as some type of idea of like, hey, if Ballmer's doing this, then this may be a legit company. But if Ballmer knew all along, or at some point was aware of potential fraud and he kept dumping money into it, then in some capacity that could be viewed as market manipulation. You're sitting there inflating something that you either know is not real or you know potentially is fraudulent, but you're still throwing money in there for your own interest, which then inflates the interest of a fraudulent company and more people put money into it. And so if you're not making it aware that the reason why I'm putting money in this is to pay Kawhi Leonard underneath the table, then it seems as if like this fraudulent company is legit, even though it's really not, because you're just trying to again find money to pay Kawhi. And actually it does say it right here. After it says the full extent of Ballmer's transfer of funds to Aspiration, right under that it says Sandberg and Ballmer's publicly represented that Ballmer was a legit investor and supporter of Aspiration. They did so with Ballmer's knowledge and active participant in order to increase Aspiration's profile. So they did that. It says that literally in the lawsuit. So yeah, that's literally what they did. They used Ballmer as a face to justify and make legitimate of a fraudulent company. And so if Ballmer knew about that, bro, I ain't gonna lie, it's more than just a fine from the NBA and potentially being suspended. This is like some real jail time situation, and how people have like decided to just ignore that aspect of it, because in real time when it was being said, I was like, this is kind of odd to me. But the fact that people have decided to just overlook it is crazy. It continues. Plaintiffs would not have invested in or kept their investments in Aspiration if Ballmer and Sandberg had disclosed the true nature of Ballmer's investments. Ballmer thus supported and participated in Sandberg's fraud. Plaintiff alleged that Ballmer transferred funds to Aspiration to keep the company afloat, and by Sandberg's support, co-opting and silence about the secret deal with Leonard. The full extent of Ballmer's transfer of funds to Aspiration and Sandberg will be ascertained in discovery. So there's two things with that. A, if you were on stream with me, and I feel as if like we have this on the channel as well, where Mark Cuban, I don't know what the fuck Mark Cuban was doing. Like, I didn't know where Mark Cuban was claiming that if he was in Steve Ballmer's situation to keep the company afloat, that he would keep putting money into this company, even if he knew the company was fraudulent.
And the minute he found out that this was falling apart and these guys were a scam, he'd say, let me invest some more money so you can pay off Kawhi so this whole thing goes away and there's no evidence of it any longer, and let's just erase all this from the books. You don't leave this outstanding debt out there.
And at that point, I couldn't imagine that he even dare claim that, because effectively Mark Cuban was openly acknowledging that he was willing to do things illegally. That is illegal. You putting money purposely into a fraudulent company is crazy. And the fact that Mark Cuban came out of his mouth and said that is crazy. And in real time, when I heard it, I was like, this is all crazy. Like, everything about it did not make any sense at all. Then we later learned that potentially that's exactly what Steve Ballmer was doing, because he kept putting money into this company. But then the second thing, and what was definitely worth noting, is that all of the financials will be ascertained through this, which then means that even if, hypothetically speaking, that they cannot find hard-hitting evidence to prove that this lawsuit will go through in a more, manageable manner to the point where he does successfully get sued, or even if he gets settled, regardless of what happens, what will be revealed are all of the transactions, so we can just stop guessing. When discovery hits, every single last transaction from Steve Ballmer throughout these years will be revealed. And I'm gonna just keep it a bean with you. At that point, it's done. Because originally, I was under the influence that they were potentially going to get away with it, because the same way with the whole gambling situation with Terry Rozier, Adam Silver came out and basically said, like, the reason why we weren't able to, like, fully suspend him is because we don't have the same degree of power that a federal agency would have or any other law firm would have in terms of acquiring certain bits of information as necessary to really lay down a hammer, which is understandably so. But in this situation, especially to the tune of money that they're referencing right now, if this lawsuit actually goes through and they go through discovery and they make it public, they're going to make it public, all the things that this man was spending money on during this time period. At that point, the NBA is going to have their evidence for what they need to do if they deem it necessary. And I do believe in terms of the Clippers organization, now you're fucked. Because for a good second there, you are potentially going to be able to get away with it and hide behind the fact that the NBA at large, they don't have the power. They don't have the ability to go through your bank accounts. They don't have the ability to subpoena you. They don't have the ability to do all the things that a federal agency or someone who's filing a lawsuit would be able to do. So you potentially is going to be able to get away with it. They may check your phone or some shit like that. You delete messages or whatever you need to do. But now, with you getting sued and there being discovery, oh, you're going to have to give up that information. And if any of it is altered, you're going to make yourself look even more suspicious. So I'm going to be honest with you, this whole Kawhi situation has gotten significantly worse. And if anything, if you were a Clippers fan, you potentially thought, hey, man, we get away with it. But at this point, we're all definitely going to get to the bottom of it. Without a doubt, we're definitely going to get to the bottom of it. And discovery's going to hit, and they're going to reveal what exactly was being spent, how often was being spent, if any of the money was also given underneath the table to Joe Sandberg. I'm going to just keep it a being with you. When you get to this degree of money, it wouldn't surprise me at all if a lot of that shit was underneath the table. A lot of that shit ain't being sent to Aspiration, but directly to Joe Sandberg. A lot of things going back and forth, like they're not only probably going to look through what's going on with Ballmer and Aspiration or Ballmer and Sandberg, but they probably also going to find Ballmer and Kawhi. They could look at that stuff as well. If there's any transactions, any transfer of money that looks suspicious, bro, you're done. You're cooked. You're finito. You're finished, dog. And in a much bigger picture, I don't know how we've gotten this far and no one doesn't really recognize what's at stake here. But nah, bro, this is much bigger than like an NBA salary cap situation. Ballmer is genuinely looking at serious like wire fraud, potentially market manipulation, money laundering. Like there's some very real allegations that could be served to Ballmer, and I do believe this is only going to be the beginning of it, and I do think this is a very credible lawsuit, even before Pablo Torre, because Pablo Torre does seem as if like that podcast is referenced in the lawsuit. Bro, even beyond that, I'm gonna just keep it a being with you. If I was someone who was investing into that company and they potentially used Ballmer as like a face of, hey, we got Steve Ballmer involved, that's how to like show how real we are. Ballmer is even willing to invest $50 million into it. And if it's learned that Ballmer knew that this wasn't legit, or if it's learned that Ballmer participated in any of the shenanigans just to put money towards Kawhi, bro, he's cooked. He's cooked. He's done. Even if the NBA doesn't come to a conclusion by February, there will be a conclusion come to. And hopefully Ballmer didn't do it, but it's looking kind of bad. I ain't gonna lie. It's looking pretty bad, bro.